Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. When my wife and I bought our house in a new development, we were excited to join the community. The neighborhood was still under construction, with only a few houses occupied so far. Ours was one of the first built in our cul-de-sac. A few months after moving in, we received a notice that a homeowners association had been established. At first, we didn't think much of it. The letter mentioned maintaining common spaces and enforcing basic rules for aesthetics. Seemed harmless enough. That changed quickly once the homeowner association board was elected. They began imposing all kinds of petty restrictions. We got cited for having a bird bath in our front yard, since they were only allowed in back. Holiday decorations could only be up for 2 weeks before and after a holiday, and any changes to the exterior of your house had to be approved. We grumbled about it, but went along with their demands. We didn't want to make waves as one of the first residents, and we assumed the rules were for the good of the community. That illusion was shattered one Saturday morning. I walked out to get the mail and saw a bright yellow slip on my windshield. It was a $50 fine from the homeowner association for parking in the street. This made no sense. I had parked in my driveway, not the street. When I looked closer, the citation said I was obstructing cul-de-sac common space. What on earth did that mean? I went to talk to my next-door neighbor, Mike, who was also on the homeowner association board. He explained that the cul-de-sac island was considered common space, so even though it was part of my driveway, I wasn't allowed to park there. I had to keep that area clear. I pointed out that the cul-de-sac island was maybe big enough for half a car, and it was smack in the middle of my driveway. How was I supposed to avoid parking there? Mike shrugged and said rules were rules. People weren't allowed to park in the cul-de-sac common spaces. It was to keep things orderly. This was ridiculous. I wasn't blocking anyone's access or causing any issues. I was literally parking in my own private driveway, and I was being fined for it. I decided to contest the citation. The homeowner association notice said I could appeal to the board in a hearing, so I submitted my appeal and waited for a response. A few weeks later, I got a letter with the date for my hearing. Though hearing was a bit of a stretch, I was given 5 minutes to state my case in front of the homeowner association board at their monthly meeting. When my turn came, I explained that it was unreasonable to expect homeowners not to park in part of their own driveways. The cul-de-sac island was a meaningless technicality. This rule served no purpose except harassing residents. The board members stared back impassively. After I finished, the president curtly thanked me for my comments. They didn't ask me any questions or deliberate at all. The whole thing felt like a sham. Sure enough, a week later I got their decision letter. My appeal was denied. The fine would stand, and I needed to comply with the parking policy. No further appeals were allowed. At that point, I'd had it. The homeowner association was out of control on a power trip, and I was done being pushed around. I decided if they wanted a war, they'd get one. I parked my biggest truck dead center in the cul-de-sac island of my driveway. I left it there every day, even though I rarely drove it. Of course, the fines started piling up almost immediately, but I didn't pay any of them. I waited to see what their next move would be. It didn't take long to find out. I came home from work one day to see a tow truck hauling my truck away. Those jerks had it impounded as an illegally parked vehicle. The homeowner association president came waddling over, smug as could be. He said they had authorizations to tow violating vehicles, and they'd continue to do so if I kept breaking the rules. In that moment, I almost snapped. I wanted to grab that weasel by his collar and throttle him, but I held it together. This was war, and I wouldn't lose my cool. Instead, I called my lawyer. I explained the situation and asked what my options were. He said it seemed pretty clear-cut. The homeowner association was overstepping its authority with unreasonable rules and equally unreasonable enforcement. He advised me to continue contesting their fines and fees. Eventually, they would tire of the cost and hassle of the legal battle, or we could take them to court for harassment. Heartened, I continued my defiance. My truck came back from impound with a stack of fees, but I didn't pay those either, and I immediately parked it back where it was. Each day I left it parked on the cul-de-sac island. Let them tow it again. I'd gotten a dirt cheap old beater to drive as backup transportation. Meanwhile, I kept thorough records of all fines and correspondence. I wrote detailed accounts of every interaction with the homeowner association board members. Finally, after a few weeks of this, I got a call from the homeowner association president. To my surprise, he sounded concerned, almost conciliatory. He asked if we could meet and discuss the issue. I agreed to the meeting, curiosity piqued. What changed to make him back down? The answer became obvious as soon as I arrived. Half the neighborhood had gathered at the community center for the meeting, and they looked mad as hornets. Turns out word had spread about my fight with the homeowner association, and other residents were equally fed up with the ridiculous rules and tyrannical board. My defiance had become a rallying point. People started standing up to the homeowner association, contesting citations and demanding changes. They were done being bullied and harassed in their own homes. The president stammered apologies and assurances that they would revisit the rules. It was clear he was in damage control mode. They'd have a revolt on their hands if they kept up their ways. In the end, we negotiated a truce. The homeowner association eliminated the rule about cul-de-sac parking and dropped all fines against me. I, in turn, agreed to dismiss my pursuit of legal action. And at the next homeowner association election, the president and his cronies got decisively voted out. The new board was far more reasonable. They say one person can't fight City Hall. But this experience proved otherwise. With persistence and a willingness to stand up to overreach, the little guy can still win. I'm proud my stubbornness helped our neighborhood reclaim control from its runaway homeowner association. The next one is a pro-revenge story. This all happened when I was a young man, around 21 years old. I was sharing a flat with another young bloke in a Perth suburb, Australia. I had not long had my first car, an old 1972 beat-up Ford Falcon. You know, base model, slightly rusted, air-conditioned floor, etc. I'm 50 now, so quite a long time ago. I loved my old Ford. It was roomy, comfortable, and reliable. As part of the large block of flats we lived in, each flat was given 2 parking spaces, one undercover and one open. My spot, clearly numbered with a 2 and a large white paint digit, was the open space. All was well for a few months. I was getting along really well with my flatmate, and we got along with our other neighbors. Enter the entitled person. He drove a fairly new BMW, nice and flashy. While I was at work, he took it upon himself to steal my spot. In Australia, the Ford Falcon was one of the largest cars on the road, and parking it was difficult. It would be classified as mid-sized in the USA. I get home, and my spot is occupied. Damn! Off I go to find someone else's spot to borrow for the night. I ask Unit 1, as I know they don't have a car, and they were quite accommodating to me. Still, I go inside and write a note for the owner of the BMW and neatly place it under his windscreen wiper, hoping that a polite request would do the trick. Nope. The next day, the same thing happened. Now I'm getting a little irritated. I repeated the previous night's efforts but made the note bigger and a tad ruder. I know he got the message because the bits of paper were gone. Day 3. Same again, it's the weekend. Unit 1 couldn't lend me their spot as they had visitors. Okay, fair enough. I park my big old Falcon across the front of the BMW, blocking it in. I wasn't going anywhere that weekend. The next morning, the BMW was gone. Somehow it managed to slip away. I steal my spot back again. That evening, the BMW did to me what I did to him, blocking me in. I see red. Upsetting me is not nice me. I'm patient. I bide my time. Monday morning, he's gone, and I go to work. Monday evening, yep, you guessed it, spot taken again. Fair dinkum, does this guy think he owns the spot? Revenge mode. A new note, on a sheet of A4 paper, written on his windscreen with a big black marker, the kind that goes through the page. The full sheet is stuck to his windscreen with that horrible masking tape that always leaves something behind when it's peeled off. The next day, the note is gone, and the BMW is still in my spot. Okay, the same again with the note. Rude to the extreme, kindly explaining to the BMW why in the 7 dark levels of hell he shouldn't park in someone else's spot, maybe even referring to his dubious parentage. I then get out the big gun, my silicone gel. I used the entire tube, plastering every last square millimeter of the page, and stuck it to his windscreen, right in front of where his eyes would look through at the road. Try ignoring that. When I go to leave for work the next morning, the BMW is gone, nowhere to be seen. I saw it further down the car park a couple of days later, with a brand new windscreen. Needless to say, he never parked in my spot again. In fact, Neither did anyone else. Ever. The next one is a petty revenge story. So this story is from a couple of days ago when I told my friend she should post it. But she didn't want to on her account, so I did it on mine. I didn't entirely know where to post this, so I just brought it here. Sorry if it doesn't belong. A couple of days ago, I saw my friend at the same store I was at. While my mum was getting other groceries, I was getting ingredients for the next day's dinner. We started talking, and soon enough enter Karen. Karen to me, "Excuse me, can I get to that fridge behind you?" Me, yeah, no problem. She was wearing her hair up in a bun with a pen, and she had the casual Karen look with a jean jacket, a red shirt, and jeans. We moved out of the way, and she got her milk by reaching around from the door behind us to the one that was open where she was. I looked at what she was doing, a bit confused, but returned to my conversation. She eventually got the milk jug wedged extremely tight, and continued to vigorously yank on the jug handle and got frustrated at why it's not coming out. Me. You know there's a door that is more convenient to get the milk out from. Karen. I know how to get milk out of a fridge. Me. Okay then. My friend to me. Obviously not. We laughed and Karen got mad, so she took the pen out of her hair and stabbed the milk jug. It sprayed all over my friend and a small amount on me. I got mad and yelled at her about what the hell she was thinking. She smirked and stabbed another milk jug and another. She was on a rampage. She started lobbing the entire half jugs. After a while, she smugly said, "Who can't get a milk jug now?" My friend and I were about to leave to tell the store staff, but she ran off with her cart, laughing like a maniac. We thought she had gone mad from a simple joke. We went to the front of the store to tell someone, and we ran into Karen. She pointed to us and said, "There are the two who made the mess with the milk. They have it all over them, so it only makes sense." The employee looked at us and asked if this is true, as Karen had milk on her jacket as well. We told him it's not true, and our side of the story. Karen denied it, so the employee just shrugged and said, "Guess I'll just check the security cameras." The color drained from Karen's face like water. Karen, sorry, but I have my son at home, so I should probably get back to him. She started to run, but my friend stopped her, and the employee just called the manager of the store. Eventually, the manager found the footage of her making the mess, and told Karen that unless she cleaned up her mess and paid, he's calling the cops. The manager called the cops anyway, and both my mom and her parents found us, and the manager explained. We left the store, and we still can't forget her face when she knew she had been caught. The next one is a malicious compliance story. I worked for a water company for 25 years and was one of their most productive repair crews. That is, until the new manager, let's call him Mr. Numbnuts, started. We had a monthly rota where you are on call for 1 week in 4, for emergency repairs out of hours. On the day in question, I started work at 7:30 a.m. on a Friday and finished work at 3:15 a.m. Saturday morning, so a pretty long shift. I get to work Tuesday morning and get called into the office by Mr. Numbnuts and informed that according to my vehicle tracker, I'd left the yard at 3:12 a.m. and not 3:15 a.m., which is an attempt to defraud the company. As you can imagine, I was absolutely fuming at this level of nonsense. I told him that at the time I was covered in mud and sweat and just wanted to get home after completing a long shift for the company. I asked him if he was genuinely making a big deal out of 3 minutes. He said he was making me aware that I could be fired for it. Cue malicious compliance. I said that if we're going to be this petty, you can take me off the emergency contact list for extra coverage, and I won't be starting 20 minutes early each day either. I'll now be clocking in at exactly 7:30 a.m. and heading out at exactly 5:30 p.m., no deviation whatsoever. You can explain to your bosses why productivity is down and why you're struggling to get coverage for emergencies. We'll then see how important your 3 minutes are when they are costing the company money. Little did I realize at the time, but the guy's job was bonus related and linked to our productivity. Productivity tanked after that because all the other crews followed my lead, except the brown-nosed crews, obviously. 3 weeks went by with an absolute mess in customer service complaints about their work not being carried out in a timely manner. My productivity dropped from 7 jobs per day down to 4. Mr. Numbnuts got called in by his bosses to try and explain what is going on. He tried to spin some nonsense story that I'd turned all the guys against him for no reason, and that this was the result. Little did he know that I'd actually trained his boss when he first started with the company 15 years before, and wanted to come out and find out what we do and experience how hard the job is. He surprised me by working a full month on the repair crews before going back to the office. Anyhow, the boss called me in to find out what was really going on, so I explained how he'd used the tracker to monitor what time I'd left the yard and that I'd estimated my finish time and overestimated by 3 minutes because I was absolutely exhausted after working a grueling on-call shift. The conclusion was that the manager was let go for misuse of the tracking system, as it's only supposed to be used for emergencies, and we had our on-call system reviewed to reduce the hours we were having to work. The next one is an entitled people story. I was never close to my cousins. I haven't seen them since 2017 at my grandma's funeral. Of course, we exchanged a few texts back and forth, but it was nothing to speak of. Last year, they both tried to get involved in my relationship with my now fiancé. They followed him on Instagram, which I thought was a bit weird because I rarely talk to them, but I tried not to think much of it. One of my cousins, I'll refer to her as A, even DM'd my now fiancé. Then she texted me a screenshot of the DM. She said in the conversation that she wanted to talk to him to make sure he's good enough for me. I found that really weird because this is someone I haven't seen since 2017, and I rarely talk to. I told her that I don't feel comfortable with this conversation she's having with him, and I even told my now fiancé not to reply, unfollow, block, do what you have to do. My other cousin, the sister of A, I'll refer to as M, caught wind of what I said to her sister, and she made my life hell. She harassed me through DM in such an intense way I didn't think was humanly possible. So I blocked her on Instagram. Then she continued to harass me through my number in regular text. I blocked her there too. I was so distraught that I was a complete mess. After all of that, I started receiving these creepy, harassing prank calls. My fiancé was getting them too sometimes. I would get random calls from weird numbers, voicemails of someone screaming like they were being brutally murdered, and even one of a man making masturbating sounds. It was so bad, this was on a continuous loop and it never ended. I went to the cops and changed my number. My mom started receiving the calls too, but not as bad as me. She did some research on the numbers and somehow linked all the calls to my cousin M and her friend. I'll refer to as L. She found out L is a close childhood friend of M, and he has mental issues. He was in and out of mental institutions. When she confronted M, she even said that she and L were just prank calling and it was all in fun. She told both cousins M and A they needed to leave me alone because they made my life hell, and if I get one more harassing call or text, there's already a record with the police. They both stopped. I recently got engaged to my now fiancé, and I guess the news broke to my cousins. I got a text from A, and I didn't respond since I have nothing to say to her. My mom even said both A and M DM'd her on Facebook. I don't know why she's still Facebook friends with them after all of this. And she even replied to both of them. I got a DM from M on Instagram, and I instantly felt horrified. I didn't open the DM, but I checked the account, and it's a new account she seems to have made, I guess, to contact me since the last one is blocked. I don't know what to do. My mom seems to think it's nice they are reaching out to me, and M even told my mom she is sorry about what happened last year. She really thinks both M and A are being nice for supporting my engagement. I don't trust these people, and I don't want them in my life, especially not M, and I don't want them to ruin my life any further. I'm so scared of M. She doesn't seem well overall as a person. Updated version. My mom wasn't close with her brother, their dad. They have their own toxic relationship. I noticed my uncle viewed my Instagram story. I don't follow him, so it seems he did some stalking. I texted my mom and she told me to block him. I told her I'll block him and A because I don't trust either of them. My mom never wanted me to block A because she's worried that it will start up again with the calls and all of the harassment. I felt like my mom wanted me to keep A in my life when I don't want her there. So I blocked her and now I'm panicking. Should I unblock her? I'm worried about further harassment. I'm so scared she'll find new ways to contact me. I'm scared of my mom's reaction over me blocking her. Should I keep her unblocked for the sake of everything and to prevent issues with my mom? Or did I do the right thing by cutting her off? The next one is an entitled parent story. So, my 19F mom and bio dad divorced when I was 5. Due to our state's terrible family court system, my bio dad only had to pay $125 a month in child support. It was a load of nonsense. He made a lot of money with his tattoo shop, but he spent that money on drugs and women. Meanwhile, my mom had to make cheap casseroles to feed me as a baby, and my older half-brother, who was 14, while she was a stay-at-home mom. My mom found out about that money when my grandma, who's an accountant, was asked to look at his financial records. When my grandma discovered what happened to that money and saw how much my mom struggled to provide basic living necessities for us kids, it made her livid. My grandma begged my mom to leave my bio dad, but she didn't follow that advice until 5 years later. When the divorce finally happened, the custody battle was an absolute mess. The judge was difficult, even though my bio dad tested positive for every illegal drug except weed, and there were testimonies about how violent and awful he was. I still had to visit him every other weekend, which stopped when I was 14. After enduring a lot of abandonment and verbal abuse, I cut contact with him when I was 17. To make things even worse, he only paid when my second stepmom, Sherry, made him. She was divorced with kids too and knew that it was important. My first stepmom never really understood what child support was, Olmao. After the divorce, my mom struggled hard, from couch surfing until my grandma bought us a house to using food stamps to feed me, and finally, building up her teaching career. Now, we finally live a comfortable life. We aren't wealthy by any means, but we live comfortably. Well, recently, as of last month, my bio dad suddenly paid $200, and 2 weeks ago, he randomly paid another $200 to my mom. The only reason my mom and I think he would pay now is that he may be going to jail, again. This is quite amusing, especially considering I'm in college right now. My mom and I are laughing our heads off and even treated ourselves to a small spa day, as that money is basically nothing right now. Oh well, he only has $9,186.96 to go, laughing my ass off. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.